Hi, and welcome back to Purple Color Life. I can get pretty impatient sometimes, and springtime is often one of those times. I'd like this mud to be gone so I can get back up to my firewood work, and I've got other projects that I just can't quite get done when the ground is so sopping wet. We live in a pretty wet area here in Northwest Pennsylvania. I've got lots of springs that feed water down across the property. So this is one of those times where I'm a little bit impatient. We had some pretty decent winds the other day. So I came up here to the firewood stack, fixed my tarps over top. There's still a little bit of ice on them. It has been cold enough at night for there to be ice and snow. Did the same thing to our oak here. You can see that ice. Brought the Ford Workmaster up here, and you can see, you know, I got in the mud pretty good. So I'm gonna try not to come up here with the tractor until this dries out. But like I said, I get a little impatient with some things, and this is one of those things, just waiting for the ground to dry out to be able to use equipment. While we let the equipment warm up for today's project, I wanted to show you something Jennifer got impatient about. You can see right here, freshly planted. I mentioned last fall about that maple tree that was growing just off the porch in the landscaping area by the house. Jennifer and I last weekend dug that up and transplanted it to here. I made a video in the past about towing this 6x12 enclosed trailer with the 4-cylinder 5-speed 2010 Ford Ranger. I'll put a link to that video up above. Today I'm just moving it So today's project, finally, after being patient for over 10 years, and one of the main reasons I bought the Takeuchi Mini X, I'm gonna eliminate, or at least start the process of eliminating that extension cord. So today we'll break ground. I'm gonna start here at the building. That's why I cleared those tree limbs from around the building so I can get the Mini X in here without getting it all scratched up. We'll start there and start our trench. But what's gonna happen is, right down here is really wet. You can see there's the drain that comes across the driveway. So we need to come along here. I'm gonna go a little bit in front of that drain. And then for the first stage, I'm actually gonna stop right here and not dig the whole way across this part of the driveway. I'll do that last. I do feel a little bit like Jennifer in this instance. A lot of times she'll have clothes and she'll say, what do you think, this shirt versus this shirt? I'll pick one and she'll say, I'm going with the other one. I'm like, well, why did you even ask? That's kind of how we are here. I asked in a previous video about getting power to the big building. I'll put a link to that video up above. And there were some great suggestions. The suggestion I was really leaning towards going with was Kyle from Spicer Designs said, switch to a 400 amp service for your house. Take that 400 amp service to that pole, then split 200 amps to the house, 200 amps to the building. That's probably the most future-proof and smartest idea. The flaw to that, once I dug into it a little bit, was that my general link will only work on the 200 amp service. So I wouldn't be able to connect my generator to repower the house in the instance of a power outage. So that was kind of a determining factor. And the other thing was price. It was gonna cost me quite a bit of money to get the line to go from the pole up to the building for a 200 amp line. That would not be covered by the electric company. So what I decided to do instead is to get me everything I need for today, not worrying about the future. So I'm gonna go ahead and start at the front corner of the garage here, trench down around this drain and up to the building. That's the shortest route going around the drain. And then we'll have at least 30 amps of power in the building to do our lights and, you know, an air compressor if I need it. If there comes a day when I want to heat that building with electricity or put a welder out there, then I could run the 200 amp line at that point. So I'm not saying I can't ever do it, but at least for now, we're just going to run a 30 or a 50 amp line from the garage to the big building, and the breaking ground process starts right now. In a future video, I'll do a video about operating the Takeuchi. Now I have no doubt that as wet as it is, I will probably mess up the yard pretty decent here. And I don't want to do that, but I was growing impatient, like I said. I mentioned in a previous video that I don't like these downhill lurches. We're about to go over one. It's hot fast. Okay, we are making some progress here, but it's slow. I am a slow operator on uneven terrain, that is for sure. And I'm going to actually turn the base of the Mini X around the tracks so that the blade end of the tracks will be underneath where I'm digging. That way, I'm not digging on the drive wheels, I'm digging on the roller wheels, which is the preferred way to use the Mini X. But I had it backwards here because I needed the blade at the back for pushing down on the ground, since I was downhill on the back side and I was going to be swiveling to dump the dirt out of the bucket. I didn't want a chance tipping over, you know, when I was turning and twisting around. So I needed that back pressure to keep the Mini X stable. But now that I'm a little bit more on the flat, you can see we're a little bit on the flat here with the machine, I'm going to turn those tracks around so we'll be digging on the non-drive end of the machine. Now let's take a look at the trench. This Mini X has no trouble digging deep. We're probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 feet deep right there. We're way deeper than we need to be. I didn't want to get too close to the building, so I will finish that out by hand. Right where that extension cord is going in is where our power will go into the building. So I've got, you know, 5 or 6 inches of sod there to dig, and then I'm gonna have to dig this down. I might be able to pull the excavator kind of where I'm standing right now and dig to the side here. That's one of the nice thing about the side swing boom on this machine. You can park to the side of where you're digging. But there you go, Takeuchi TB235-2 doing a great job digging this trench. Now this would be a perfect job for a smaller bucket, like a 12-inch wide bucket. But those are still over $1,000 right now, about $1,300. So we'll make do with the 24-inch that we have. Yes, we're moving more dirt than we need to, but I may throw a water line in there also, so it won't hurt us to have a little bit of a bigger trench than we need, and I can fill it back in pretty easily, either with the Takeuchi or with the John Deere. Today, my plan is just to try to get as much of this done as possible. I can't work on this all day long. I've got other stuff I have to do. But at least I'm making some progress, and we've broken ground on something I've been waiting to do, and I just ran out of patience. I couldn't wait any longer. Even though it's muddy, even though we're gonna make a mess here, I wanted to get it started. Now I'm gonna lift the bucket up, and I'm actually going to physically turn the tracks and the machine around. Now I know some of you are gonna say in the comments, just push down with the bucket, spin the tracks around you without even moving. It actually says in the manual not to do that. I know some professional operators do that. Maybe they don't own their own equipment, or maybe that's just an efficiency thing, but it says in the Takeuchi manual never to do that, to spin around. I did look up online how long it should take for a mini excavator to dig a 100-foot long trench 3 feet deep. And according to what I found, it said 12 hours. That seems like a pretty long time, and I feel like a really slow operator compared to professionals. But I think I'll be able to do it in less than 12 hours. So I don't know if the internet just is misinformation in this case, or maybe that means mini excavators like the small Chinese ones with the gasoline engines, but this Takeuchi seems like it'll do a way faster job than that. I mean, it has no trouble digging a full bucket full out at a time, keeping it as deep as I need it to go. And it really is a fun machine to operate. It does take a little bit of getting used to, but really fun to operate. And there's still, in my case, that little bit of a fear when I'm operating on uneven terrain. You know, I was moving pretty slow there at the beginning when I was on the downhill slope and off-center slope leaning left, but now that we're still a little bit of a downhill slope, but at least we're mostly squared up with the area that we're digging, and that makes a big difference. Now I have a friend who's been operating excavating equipment his entire life. He's a few years older than me, and he just is so fluid. I mean, every motion looks like just basically an extension of his arm. Like he can do all the movements using the joysticks, you know, simultaneously in multiple directions. I'm not anywhere near being that good, but the more, you know, with every scoop and every project, I get a little bit more efficient. I told Jennifer I could have a little side business running the excavator, but I'd have to charge by the hour and not by the job to make any money, because I'm so slow at, I feel like I'm so slow at operating this machine. Still getting the feel for all the controls. I'd say we're plenty deep enough there. Reposition here. A little bit of down pressure on the blade, I'm finding, makes it a little bit more stable as I'm digging. Now that the blade's back in front of me where it's supposed to be. So I feel like the thumb should be able to go up a little bit more than that, but that is as far as I can get it. Must be how the bucket is on the pin. can hear this does have the auto throttle. I've got us about medium throttle. We'll turn it up just a little bit there, make the hydraulics work a little bit faster now that we're getting a little bit more comfortable with operating the machine. That clay does like to get stuck in the bucket. Look at that bucket full. Readjust here again. Getting a little bit close to my drain pipe. This is going actually a little bit faster than I thought it would. I don't want to run over that drain pipe, so just a little bit. I was listening to the radio here in the Mini X. It's nice to have the, in addition to the radio, in addition to the heat, it's nice to have that radio. I was hoping that I don't get it super muddy with the Mini X this time. Last time I was down here in the, what I'll call the drainage area of the yard, I got pretty muddy. And it is surprising how difficult it is to wash a mini excavator. Lots of nooks and crannies that hold all the mud. And the deeper we get in this clay, the more difficult it is to get that clay out of the bucket, especially in this wet. Now, if we were probably mid-June or July, this ground would be much easier to get out of the bucket, not nearly as muddy when we're working here with the excavator. But like I said, my patience is just running out. I've waited so long to get real power here to the building. But I just wanted to get going on it. Just so impressed with this machine. I've been talking to people lately about mini excavators in the comments and emails. You know, there's a lot of brands out there, and I don't want to speak ill of any other brands, but I will say that it seems like the salespeople at the Takeuchi dealer are accurate when they say that these Takeuchis are a little bit different quality than like a residential or private grade. And I agree with that statement. I think these are more of a commercial grade machine than other brands that you could buy, you know, for farm or ranch use. Definitely a more commercial machine than the Chinese mini excavators that are for sale everywhere. Those things are just flooding the Facebook marketplace. You'll see them for, I see them at least around here, those Chinese mini excavators with the Briggs and Stratton engines. I see them for $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, which is super affordable, and that's really nice that the people who have needed an excavator now may have a way to be able to get one at a reasonable price. And it's definitely flooding the market though. So it would have been nice to have this trench exactly straight, but I have to work around this drain that's behind me as I sit in the excavator right now. I may extend this drain at some point in the future, kind of bury it here in the yard and then put it further in the woods where it exits out. Keep the yard a little bit more dry so that the area like I'm sitting in right now isn't the place that all the water is flowing across. Yeah, we're making lots of progress now. Do have a video coming up that I'm pretty excited about. Actually, I'll probably break it into 2 separate videos. Kind of got all the thoughts in my head, what I want to say and what I want to show you, but it's going to take some legwork to get everything ready. So hopefully I'll be able to shoot part of that tomorrow, and then maybe it'll release next week. Lately, I've been so busy with my day job work. I just got to watch here as I back up. I don't want to back over that drain. So busy with my day job work that I haven't really had time to make multiple videos in a week like we always used to. So what I've been doing is trying to shoot a video Saturday and Sunday, edit it Sunday night, and then post them on Tuesday. So you may have noticed our videos have been mostly coming out on Tuesdays now. I don't know if that's a stick or a metal pipe. I think that's actually a metal pipe. Probably from the old oil and gas wells around here. You know, I find that 2-inch steel casing metal pipe that was used on the oil lines all through the woods. It was used to pipe the oil or the waste from drilling to tanks and away from the rigs, the oil pumps. I am hitting water here in the trench. Like I said earlier, we are in an area that is just full of natural springs, which is great for our drinking water. Lots of really good, tasty water. Maybe it's tasteless, not tasty, just good, clean drinking water. But it's not good when you're digging or, you know, trying to have a dry yard. We usually have some pretty decent grass because the ground stays wet. But if you'll remember, if you've been watching the channel for a while, the yard takes a while to dry out. I always end up mowing with muddy tires for the first long bit of summer. Alright, time to move the machine again. I just need to take a glance out the window here, see how close we are to this pipe. We are good with the pipe, so we're going to back up a little bit more. We are getting into more of a wet area now, unfortunately. So we're digging up the yard a little bit here. But I knew that coming into this project. This is actually one of the nicer sections of grass that we have at the house, because this section of grass has been here pretty long. Some of it was a little bit interrupted about 22 years ago when we were building the house, grading the land. But for the most part, this has been growing and we've been taking care of it for 20 some years without interrupting it. Now here we're interrupting it. Another example of somewhat of a newbie operator here. You know, I should be separating out the topsoil. I did that on the French drain project. I separated out the topsoil as I was digging. I put topsoil on one side and the clay dirt on the other, so that when I'm refilling, I've got topsoil on the top. And I thought about doing that again this time. Probably should have, but I'm thinking that I would like to put some fresh topsoil on here. I've got piles out by the driveway of really good topsoil, so I'll probably just fill this in. However, the dirt goes back in the trench after I bury my lines, and then I'll put topsoil on top of it. You can see this is some pretty thick clay that we're in right now. And this is probably the last time before we move the Mini X, that we will not be filling up with water with every single scoop. It's my guess, because we're going to be right beside the drain in the next little bit. And then if we have a lot of rain, like we're supposed to get tomorrow, 80% chance of rain, then this trough that I'm making for my lines is all going to be full of water, I'm afraid. I'm also thinking partially for olive, but in addition, all the deer that travel through our yard every single day, I'm wondering if I should put some stakes or caution tape by this 100-foot long, 3 feet deep trough so that the animals don't fall in it at nighttime. I did actually have a roll of Ethernet Cat 6 cable that I was going to bury in here for internet, so I might throw that in here also, keep it a little bit away from the electric line so that I don't get the interference and noise. Now that the ground we're sitting on is a little bit softer down here in the mud, it does affect how the machine feels when you're digging. Kind of lifts up even against the blade. The blade's just kind of sinking down in the mud and the soft ground. I can push the blade down a little bit further and lift the front of the machine. We'll see if that helps out. Yeah, that was a little helpful. Could you do this task with one of those Chinese mini excavators? I'd say definitely. This would be, a good reason to invest $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 in one of those excavators. Especially around here, I've been looking for someone to do some of these projects for literally more than 10 years. So I said I was tired of waiting to do this. It's because I've been waiting so long to get it done. I wanted to get it done. I've wanted someone to come dig this trench and put the power line in for, like I said, more than 10 years. I've reached out to lots of people. It's just not a big enough project to make it worth their while, I think. So that's kind of why it made sense for me to get this Mini X. This is one of the projects that was on my list, if you'll recall, from that first video I made with this machine. Now I have to be a little bit careful backing up here because I do have a drain behind me too that drains out the floor drains of the garage. Okay, we are in the mud now. Let's see how we do here. I may need to pull ahead. I don't think I'm quite deep enough right there. We'll slide ahead a little bit. Clean this out a little bit. Maybe I knocked stuff in it. The bucket is so full of clay, I'm not getting a full scoop every time. I even had clay there up on top of the thumb. I might be going a little bit too deep here too. Really only need to be about 3 feet, and I could be deeper than that. Big scoop of clay. See, with every little bit you do, it gets a little bit easier to do multiple motions at once. Twisting, curling, extending out the stick or the boom. Try to make a nice smooth bottom there. Full scoops of dirt at a time. Then sometimes you knock it back in like that, which is super frustrating when you're digging with a shovel by hand. But when you're digging with a machine like this, if you knock a couple of those clumps in, not a huge deal. You just get them on the next one. Okay, let's do a little update here. You can see we are all the way down there with the Mini X. I've done a good job, I think, on this trench. It looks pretty professional, if I do say so myself. If I had my druthers, if I could go back and do it again, I would have tried to get a little bit closer here to the building. And right here, I'm only about 2.5 feet deep. The rest of the way, I'm at least 3 feet deep, in some cases more like 4 feet deep. So the trench is looking really good for our power line. I'll probably go ahead and throw a water line in there while we're at it, and maybe even that Ethernet internet line. Now my situation now is that I am to a position where I need to keep going a little bit further, but I also need to dig down from the garage. So I'm gonna have to dig right here through the gravel and across. And then we've got that pretty good slope down over. It doesn't show on camera, but that's too steep to take the Mini X down over from where I'm standing to where it's at. So what I haven't figured out yet is if I should move the Mini X up here on the pad and dig from the garage back as far as I can until I'm on the edge here of the slope that I don't want to be on, kind of get off of it and go around in the yard, or if I should dig from up above and dig the trough up over here first. Haven't determined that yet. So I think what we'll probably do is get a feel for, probably won't dig any more in front of this drain right now because that's just going to fill up with water pretty quickly. So I'll probably try to get the Mini X up here, start digging by the garage, which will then trap my trailer, but I can always get it with the tractor if I need to. Dig by the garage, come down first, and then we'll make that connecting point and the turn. I decided I'd go ahead and use the tractor to move the trailer so I'm not in the way when I'm trying to work in this space. So that'll do it for today's video of digging the trench. Stay tuned for our next video where we'll keep digging, and as you'll see, I'm actually on the next day. We ran into a little bit of a problem, maybe a big problem, when it comes to getting this trench done and power to the building. If you found this video informative and enjoyable, a lot of me talking as I was digging with Takeuchi, please give us a big thumbs up down below, and we'll see you again hopefully the next time.